What's up guys? Today we're going to be creating like a retro style video, and we're going to take you for a full walkthrough process of how we're going to do it from start to finish. Super popular technique that's going around right now. You'll see it all over the place and it's a super fun one to try out, so I thought I would show you guys exactly how to do it. We've come out here to this beautiful little spot where we're going to film a couple of retro shots of Hannah here on her bicycle, and I got a couple of pointers and tips that I want to share with you guys just to help sell the effect. Today's video is sponsored by Storyblocks, and we are going to talk a little bit more about that later. Most of the effect that you guys are going to have to do to sell this vintage look is going to happen in post, but there are a few things that you guys can do right here when you're filming just to make it a little bit easier and just to make it a little more authentic and realistic. So a couple things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be shooting handheld because I want kind of this raw handheld shake. If I had it on a gimbal, it would be too smooth and robotic. The next thing is I'm actually going to be shooting in 24p, and that's going to help just get that handheld movement. The other thing that is really going to help is the setting, the props, and like Hannah's outfit. So just like the mood of the actual real life stuff. Once that is all kind of the retro feeling, once you add all those retro effects, it's going to have a beautiful outcome, and that's kind of the scenario that we have here. Nothing too crazy. Let's grab our couple of shots here while the light is looking beautiful, and we can head back to the studio and I'll show you guys how to pull off the main aspects of actually achieving this awesome retro vintage style look. Okay, first shot, we're just going to get Hannah kind of cruising here. Slow, 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 slow. No racing. Yeah, I'm keeping it super simple. Like, I'm just kind of shooting anything that I see that sort of looks cool. Doesn't have to be too crazy. I'm keeping like quite a lot of like really close-up detail shots and just adding a bit of movement and like sway around. I think it's gonna have a cool effect. I'm just rolling like one long shot altogether. I'm just gonna do another one of the same, but like a much wider one, like just getting this whole scene, kind of like an establishing shot, but still including Hannah in it. Gonna get one of me on the skateboard rolling with Hannah, makes it nice and easy. I'm just gonna get a few sort of cutaways of the surrounding area, some of these palm trees and any other like critical things that I feel like help makes this place feel really cool. Super simple, got all the shots we need. What's nice about this is you can kind of just like freestyle it, you can do whatever you want and it's gonna just sell the effect even more. It's gonna look good. So we got it, nice and easy. Let's head back to the studio and I'll show you guys all the rest of the things that are actually gonna make the big difference on creating this little video. Fun fact, I think this is the first time I've ever recorded a studio video wearing a sweater. Winter's here and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Actually I am. I'm disappointed. Now that we are back in studio, it's time to start working our magic and pulling off some of the effects to really make this whole retro vibe come together. The first thing that we're gonna need to do is add a nice retro color grade to our footage. The next thing is that we're gonna have to add some overlays. We're gonna use a couple different overlays. One of them is gonna be some film grain overlays. The next thing is gonna be some 8mm film mats, which is basically that cool little overlay that you see with the little 8mm slide on top of your footage. And we are also gonna add some other things like film burns and light leaks just to add some spice and make it look a little bit more interesting. I get all of my overlays from Storyblocks. Storyblocks is an online stock media library with over 1 million assets. When you sign up for their monthly subscription, you get an all access unlimited download plan. So you can download as many assets off of Storyblocks. You have access to the entire website just for that one small monthly plan, which is something that is so powerful and so beneficial as creators. You can just use as much stuff off of there as you want. So any stock footage, sound effects, overlays, vintage looks, like the list goes on, you can use it off of Storyblocks for that one small monthly fee. So head on over there if you guys are looking for the assets that you're gonna need for this video in particular. They are all on there and you can get anything that you can think of on there. Let's jump over on into Premiere and I will start showing you guys how we're gonna actually put this all together. The first thing that we're gonna do, like I mentioned, is add that color grade. So I am going to add one adjustment layer over our entire sequence here, and I can just color grade that adjustment layer to the way that I want it, because I'm not doing anything too crazy. I'm not gonna color grade every individual clip. I'm just going to head over here to color. I'm gonna use one of my LUTs, which are available down below if you guys wanna pick them up. They are the LUTs that I use in every single one of my videos. So if you guys enjoy how these videos look, you might wanna check them out. Boom. And this one in particular already has like a kind of retro vibe to it. You can see, if I was to turn it on and off, it really like brings in a lot of that yellow, and then we have this nice blue. It's quite a nice contrast. I'm gonna turn it down just slightly. I'm not gonna go too in depth on this color grade because it's kind of up to you guys as your preference. But the one thing that I do wanna mention is that you can color grade this in a way that's gonna be more realistic to that like vintage look, which I'm not gonna do for this one in particular. I like the mix of having that kind of like vintage look thrown over the more like crispy HD footage that still looks nice, it still has nice colors. But if you guys do want to take it that further step and really like color grade your footage to match, I think the biggest difference that you guys are gonna have to do is you're gonna kind of have to mess up your highlights by sort of overexposing a bit and then bringing your highlights down to get a much like sort of flatter image. And the other thing is that you're probably gonna wanna crush your blacks a little bit. That's kind of a typical like vintage look. I'm gonna do that in the S curve, and basically how you wanna do that is just bringing this tail end of your blacks up, and then you can bring down your blacks. And you can see in some of these darker clips that the blacks are gonna start to crush here. See how they start to have that like, they're not true black. We can also bring this up and we can bring our highlights down a bit, because the highlights also are quite crushed in that vintage style video. Now, that's pretty much all we're gonna do. Nothing crazy for our color grade. And I might drop the sharpening just ever so slightly because of how old footage is definitely not gonna be very sharp. Often you'll see when with older videos, there's kind of like frame drop happening and there's like almost not enough frames to really fill the seconds. So if you do anything below 24 frames per second, you're gonna start to get this like jerky, jittery kind of effect, and that is often really cool for this retro style vibe. And there's a really simple way that we can do that, and that's by heading over to your effects and searching for Posterize Time, and we can grab that and drop it onto the clip that we want to affect. You can see now, if we were to play the clip in 24 frames per second, that's how it looks, pretty cool. But what I'm gonna do is just change our frame rate here to something like 16. And you can see now in the footage, it's more choppy and looks more of that retro vibe. Super cool. And you guys could essentially throw an adjustment layer above all of your footage and make all of your footage have this effect. I like to kind of sprinkle the retro stuff in there and then still have some like nice, crispy, unretrofied clips right in there. And I think the hybrid of the two has a really nice effect. We still have that like nice, crispy HD footage in there, and they just complement each other really well. The next thing that you're gonna need to do is get the overlays that you guys are gonna want to use in your video. Like we mentioned, I'm gonna jump over onto Storyblocks and we can start grabbing all of our assets that we need. Some key things that you guys might wanna search for once you are in Storyblocks is Super 8 for that like matte overlay of those little film stocks. So you can see here, we have this one, which I really like, and we have the black with the Super 8 effect. We can grab these and just hit download. Some of the other things that I'm gonna want is some film grain, just to add over on top of some of our clips. And you can see there's a bunch of different film grain. You can use your own discretion to see how far you want to take it with the film grain. If you want something really intense like this, for example, or something more subtle like this, just to have over some of your clips. This looks like quite an interesting one. And then lastly, we are gonna need a film burn or a light leak. This is great just to use as a transition. Otherwise you can just like flicker it on and off every now and then in any footage just to have that cool effect. So you can see here that we have these kind of light leaks and film burns like this. Grab the couple of different ones that I want for our video and let's head back over into Premiere. So now that we have like a bunch of our overlays, I'm gonna start placing them onto our video where we want them. There might be different blending modes that would work best, so you can experiment with each one of them and see which one works. You can see here that with our clip like this, you need to head over to the blending mode and change it. A lot of the time screen works the best in my opinion. You can see this one is completely black, and to get rid of that black, we are gonna have to select screen, and then you can see the screen comes out like that. So this looks really cool, and I'm just gonna go through and place some of these Super 8 overlays onto the footage where I think it's gonna look nice. I think I'm gonna keep that one there. Maybe put another one of these over here. The next thing we're gonna do is head over to our grain, and we are gonna grab our grain. Overlay is gonna look the best for our film grain, and we can put it up a little bit to something like 17. The next thing I'm gonna do is start adding some of our film burns and light leaks, which is basically just these like orange flares. Now, you can use these in a bunch of cool different ways. You can just flicker them over your clips. Otherwise, what I really like to do sometimes is use them as a transitional overlay. So when the frame completely gets whited out or oranged out by that film burn, then you switch to another clip. You can see with this little transition here, if I was to place this right over where two clips join, it whites out my frame and changes to another clip. Really nice effect. And then the other thing you can do is just have some nice film burn overlays like in this opening shot. You can see it adds in all that color. Super nice, really nice effect. So I'm just gonna sprinkle these around. It's completely up to you guys how far you wanna take this. You can push this and do some sort of like transition or effect on every single clip. I might even use slightly less than what I'm showing in here, but for the purpose of this example and this video, I'm trying to give you guys a nice wide range of the different options that you have. So this is where we are gonna pretty much stop with the effects. And there is a few other things that you guys can do. You can head back on over to Storyblocks and grab some sound effects, a Super 8 sound effect, which is gonna just sound a little something like this. And adding that onto some of the clips, especially where you added the Super 8 look like this, has quite a nice effect. And you can also do things like add in some text that is also gonna be in some sort of retro style. Let's add a little text to our intro clip here. And we can say retro vibes. Retro vibes. This is a cool retro font. A nice retro vibe somewhere there. Maybe fade it in. Drop it off. With each one of these extra assets that we're adding into the video, it's just further pushing that effect, making it more realistic and more vibey, having a lot more of the like retro feeling throughout the video. I am pretty happy with this. I think it turned out really well. So let's have a look at how this entire video actually did turn out, and you guys can see how it looks as a finished product once I've tweaked a little more things and how our end result actually ended up looking.
When I see your eyes, you know that it's
boom, that is gonna be it, guys. I hope you think that the end video turned out really nice. I am really happy with how it looked, and I think as a whole, by doing all the little details to the footage that we filmed in the beginning, to adding all the effects on, it has a really cool like retro vibe and turned out exactly how I had envisioned it in my mind. If you guys want to try any of these assets and use them for your videos, remember to head over onto Storyblocks. I'm going to leave them linked down below. They truly are an amazing platform for creators like you and I. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.